Hey everybody, it's Tuesday. You know what that means? It's story time. I'm Kim Huffman, and I'm the servant to the seniors here at the Port. I have a couple stories to share with you today. The first one is about a guy who decided to become a monk. Not a monkey. Mike's already got those. This guy decided he wanted to become a monk. So he decided to go to that place, that monastery place where monks were, and he met the superintendent of the monastery. He said, just wait just a few minutes, because then after that you won't be able to speak for a whole year. Then when I meet you again, you can share just a few words. So after 12 months, this man hadn't spoken a word. He met with the superintendent of the monastery, who said, "Okay, it's been a year. You can say 2 words." The monk thought for a long time and finally said, "Room cold." Another year went by. Again, he met with the superintendent of the monastery, and the superintendent said, "All right, it's been another year. You can say 2 more words." Well, this time he said, "Bed hard." The superintendent just shook his head. Well, after another year, the monk came to the superintendent, and this time he said, "I quit." Well, the superintendent responded to him, "Well, I'm not at all surprised, because all you've done since you've been here is complain." So anyway, a little humor in that story when you think about it. All right, here's the second one. This is about a man who fell into a pit. A man fell into a pit and couldn't get himself out. A subjective person came along and said, "I feel for you down there." An objective person came along and said, "It's logical that someone would fall down into that pit." A Christian Scientist came along and said, "You only think you are in a pit." A Pharisee said, "Only bad people fall into pits." A mathematician came along and said, "I'll calculate how you fell into the pit." A news reporter came by and said, "Hey, could I have an exclusive story about your pit?" A fundamentalist said, "You deserve your pit." Confucius said, "If you would have listened to me, you would not have fallen into that pit." Buddha said, "Your pit is only a state of your mind." A realist said, "That is a pit." A scientist calculated the pressure necessary in pounds and square inches to get him out of the pit. A geologist told him to appreciate the rock strata that he saw on the sides of the pit. An evolutionist said, "You are a rejected mutant destined to be removed from the evolutionary chain." In other words, he is going to die in the pit so that he cannot produce any pit-falling offspring. The county inspector came by and asked if he had a permit to dig the pit. A professor gave him a lecture on the elementary principles of the pit. An evasive person came by and avoided the subject of the pit altogether. A self-pitying person said, "You haven't seen anything until you've seen my pit." A charismatic person said, "Just confess that you're not in a pit." An optimist said, "Things could be worse." A pessimist said, "Hey, things will get worse." But then Jesus came by, seeing the man in the pit, took him by the hand and lifted him out of the pit, set his feet on solid rock to stay, and established his goings and his comings. I'm glad Jesus just didn't lift us out of the pit and leave us hanging. The Bible says that not only did he lift us out of the pit, but he set our feet on the solid rock. Psalm 40, verse 1. Well, hey, that's the story for today. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Have a great week, everybody. Hope to see you here at the port for worship.